All right, so yesterday we saw a lot of problems like this, and we were talking about converting these to decimals. And someone said, well, these are division problems, not fractions. Actually, technically, they're one and the same. So when you see a problem like this, they're just showing you how many parts. So if you see a problem like this anywhere, they're letting you know that this is how many pieces make up, this is what you have, and this is how many pieces make up a whole. So if we had 89 people liked pizza out of the school, and the bottom number would represent how many in the school, you would have 89 out of 100. And so when you do your fraction, if you did 89 divided by 100, it would equal the 89 hundredths. So for this one, you would have your, remember we're just moving the whole number and making it, so you think about this, pennies, you'd have, and I've said to put a 0 in the front so you remember there's a ones place there. Now this will be 89 hundredths like this. Now for this one, you have a couple choices. So the first thing that you could do is you could make it 100 by multiplying both the top and the bottom by 2. So 50 times 2 is 100, and 2 groups of 29 would be 58. And then you could easily convert that by just doing 0.58 because it's 58 hundredths. So same here. We know that we could multiply both of these by, so how many groups, how many quarters? So this is four quarters in a dollar, so times them by 25. Oops, 25. 4 times 25 is 100. And 3 times 25, or if you have 3 quarters, it's 75. So your decimal would be 75 hundredths without having to use a calculator. Now, if I want to use a calculator, if I used a calculator for this one, I will say though on the state test that they don't always let you use calculators in a situation like this. They would want you to know that here, if you had 31 out of 50, you would just multiply the top and the bottom number to get to 100. 2 groups of 31 would be 62, and 2 groups of 50 would be 100, which would get you your 62 hundredths as a decimal. Unless you write it wrong like that, and you have to erase it. 62 hundredths. This one, we already have our hundredths in place, so we'll just put 71 hundredths. Here, how many groups of 20 to get to 100? 20, 40, 60, 81. So we'll multiply by 5. Now this one gets a little trickier because I don't know what 17 times 5 is in my head. 20 times 5 was 100. And if I wanted to, 5 times 7 is 35. And 5 times 10 is 50. So 85 equals 85 hundredths. This one, again, over 100, so it would be 43 hundredths. 19 over 50, multiplying both the top and the bottom number by 2 to get to 100. 19 times 2, 2 groups of 9 is 18, 2 groups of 10 is 20. So we'd have 38, which would equal 38 hundredths. Next, we have 1/20th. We talked about 20 right here. So we're multiplying by 5s. 1 times 5 is 5. 20 times 5 is 100, which gets us to, now remember, this one's tricky. A lot of kids will put the 5 first. You have to remember it's 5 hundredths. So I put a 0 in my ones place, a 0 in my tens place, and a 5 in my hundredths place. So 5 hundredths. How many groups of 25 does it take to get to 100? 4. So whatever I do to the bottom, I'm also doing that to the top. 25 times 4 is 100, and 7 times 4 is 28. So this would mean 28 hundredths. This one we have our hundreds in place. So put my 0 to hold my ones place. And then I'm going to put my 13 for 13 hundredths, making sure my 3 ends in the hundredths place. How many groups of 25 into 100? Multiply that by 4. If I do it to the bottom, I have to do it to the top. 4 times 4 is 16, and 4 quarters would be 100, which equals 16 hundredths. Next, 73 hundredths. So we have hundredths in a row right here, so we're actually quite a few. So this is 73 hundredths, 81 hundredths, 33 hundredths, 59 hundredths, 51 hundredths, and 27 fiftieths. So in order to get 50 to 100, we're going to multiply the top, or sorry, the bottom and the top by 2. 50 times 2 is 100. And 2 groups of 27, 7 and 2 is 14. 2 times 20 is 40. And 40 plus 14 is 54, which equals 54 hundredths. So 54 hundredths. Keep forgetting my 0. There you go.